everyone. So we are continuing with our lesson. Go the tutorial. Yes, for the tutorial. So today we are going to be looking at how do we build an effective and strong case, the state defender in a debate. The structure that we will use la. So motion well analyzed and defined. Konke loku motion kumele sikwadi understand and sathi ukuthi how much does it have an influence on our case as a whole. How much does it have an influence on our case as a whole? So emotion analysis, analyze the motion, burden of proof, what are we going to prove? We'll discuss these things in further, and then argument structure, and then policy plans. We'll discuss ukuthi letimvo leti go determine kanjani ukuthi icase yakho ime kahle. Is it able to persuade us into believing you, or it is not able to persuade us? So let's get down to it. Motion analysis. Motion analysis is important because this is where we get to define the key terms in the motion and deduce a fair and proper motion definition for the whole debate. So nje motion yathi the result will bend use. We are expected to define Ben, or we are expected to define a zoo. What is a zoo? Differ from a nature reserve or a park. Yeah. So another thing, kumele ukuthi lama terms bese siniketa definite emotion definition. Let us tell ukuthi so emotion name, it implies ukuthi every place where the animals that are kept for in a place or their natural habitat for human entertainment are defined. You understand? So that is what the motion implies. So it means that a proposition is saying yes, those places should be shut down. Ukuthi kanjani sibataqhaza policy yabo. And then goes to opposition should nyalo uthi those places adinga valwa. Kuthi what then should be done? Could they think doing that harm they think they're doing? They will then suggest that as well. So wonke muntu unenzawo yoku-arguisha in that particular motion. You understand? And then number two, we should break down the motion into issues, which can either be principal issues, practical issues, or impact-driven issues. So la process we should then break down the motion yethu. Okay, if we are saying ban, close down all places for or where animals are kept for human entertainment, sesisho ukuthi affected. Will that be economic factors? Yes, there will be economic factors. Will there be environmental issues? Maybe there will be environmental issues. So economics will be affected on principle, on practice, on practicality, no on impact. Environment, will that be affected on principle, on practicality, or on impact? So yes, this is your structure issues in that particular way. So decide on the burden of proof. That's another thing. We have to find out what should we prove in this motion for us to win this motion. So what should we prove to win the motion? For us to be convincing enough, yeah. So let's discuss a burden of proof further. It is what the team should prove to show that the problem or the solution is implementable or not. So would start with the problem ikhona noma ayikho yini lekumele nisikhombe kona. Number one. Number two, ukuthi sibona ukuthi le solution iyenteka yini lekumele nisiprovele kona. So for example, the motion itself will ban single-use plastics in SADC countries. So the motion for us to have a burden of proof, based on principle, economic issue. A principle, as I explained it earlier on, you believe is the ideology on doing what we are doing. So singasho ukuthi la a burden of proof, it can be a principal issue based on a moral obligation to keep the earth habitable. That's a principle that can guide the debate. So that prove out by principle we have a moral obligation as the human nature, as humanity, to keep the earth habitable. Sesidabe siyaprova konke lokho, sifake onke arguments that support that particular ideology. And then number two, labanye bangathatha a burden of proof that can be practical in nature. Lengathi SADC countries cannot afford losing the plastic industry as it is huge in Africa and other developing countries. So nalapho sesingabe focus on that direction in terms of practicality. How practical is doing is legalizing or is performing, is doing this ban. So proposition can take practicality to one direction and opposition can take practicality the other way. And then number three, it can be based on the impact, the burden of proof, which will prove what's the impact of banning single-use plastics in SADC countries will greatly affect us in the negative or greatly affect us in the positive. So nakhona it's still your burden of proof. So the arguments and underneath that particular burden, this is what we are going to prove. Yeah. And then another thing, argument structure. So nyalo sesinayo a burden of proof, just in direction. Okay, we are taking a practical route, we are taking an impact route, or we are taking a principle route. So nyalo sekumele sifake arguments underneath that particular burden we have chosen for ourselves. Okay, almost a principle route. Should number one, assertion yethu ukuthi humans have a moral obligation to keep the earth habitable. So we are literally assertion yakho. A assertion, it's just a statement that has not been proven. So it's just a statement that you make. And then number two, show a reason why you think that statement langetulu simtoka. So you assert, you give a reason, and then you give evidence to prove ukuthi le assertion yakho is true. So kungaba evidence yakho, kungaba ma statistics, kungaba example, kungaba analogy. Yeah. And then another thing, impact. Sesingabuka ukuthi scope sale influence yale argument yakho ukuthi why should we care about this particular thing you are talking about? Why is it affecting the motion? Because you should tie back the argument to the motion. So kule motion kune impact yiphi lolo cetha kukusho nyalo. Kule motion kune impact yiphi lolo cetha kukusho nyalo. So bring it back to the motion. What's okay? So bantu bane moral obligation. Emotion yethu isho lokho. So uma sesenda lokho lengisho konyalo sidabe sisinda, because you are bringing these two together. You are bringing the argument back to the motion. So majority of arguments lesba now sekhanza ukuthi bantu ba-arguisha babe nayo assertion yabo, babe nayo reason, babe nama evidences, but the motion, the argument does not go back to the motion, does not tell us back to today we are arguing about this, and that is why we want as a side or as a team for us to implement or reject this motion 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Siyabona. So let us always have this in our mind. And then the final thing in this session is policy plans. For motions that really require a policy when a motion is really required, it is important that it is presented. Ngoba yangapresenteki wena neside la wena neteam yakho nitawuluza niyadliwa. And then such motions include the motions that enter the form this house will. So this house will this house will majority of the time is a policy motion, and so they should answer the policy actually should answer these questions clearly. Who will implement the policy? Kube khona organization that will implementer and that hold the nation accountable to that particular policy. And then number 2, akube nema actions ukuthi masi implementer sitawenda A, B, C and D. These are the things that will be done in this motion. Give us the strategy of doing it. Ukuthi okay, sitawuqala sikhulume nebantfu bese kulandzela lokhu, so sinike the stages ukuthi kutaqala lokhu kude lokhu if kutakwenda in stages. And then another thing, when will it be done? Sikhathi, timelines. Give us timelines of how this policy will be implemented. So once the policy yakho consideration konke koyi-4 letimvolete, then your policy is proper and it's strong, even though it never challenged, but inato letimvo letimdo. So a policy should always include this. So I think that's it for now. See you in the next video.